W5FC. GigNet every fourth Monday at 7 p.m. W5FC.
I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Good evening. The time is 9 p.m.
N5BB. The station that's transmitting, all we hear is the carrier. We don't hear any voice at all, just a carrier. Tom, if KE5ICX, if that's you, call me on my mobile phone. This is N5BB. Knows what the Skynet net control is supposed to be tonight. I forgot. This is N5BB. It's not me.
IP address 192.168.50.4 192.168.50.6. Node 55518 connected to node 4.
Okay, I'm getting ready to bring up Skynet. Excuse me. Yes. One more try. WB50ZL. Are you here, Brenda?
Bill, this is Tom, KE5ICX. She's having some sort of internet problem. If you want to go ahead and start, you're probably the most logical person. KE5ICX.
Okay, Tom. Yeah, I was sending you text messages and other things trying to figure out what was going on. Because originally I didn't know who was net control until I found your email. Okay. First, does anybody need to use the repeater before we begin Skynet? This is N5BB, acting net control. This is Bill, November 5, Bravo, Bravo, N5BB. I'll be your net control for this session of the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Skynet. excuse me, my voice is slightly hoarse. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic. We encourage your participation, your comments, and your suggestions for the net. Stations of priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time using a pro sign break in your call sign. Okay, Brenda, WB50ZL, do you want to take the net over? This is N5BB. I'll stand by. I can see there on Echo Link, you say you're online, but we don't hear you on the repeater itself. This is N5BB.
Bill, go ahead and take over and just go through the section. She's having trouble tonight. I'm talking to her on a back channel, KE5ICX.
Okay, Tom. Yeah, she came on the Echo Link for about 1 minute and then she dropped off again. Let me continue. This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. Stations are reminded to identify the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using W5FC-R. Echolink node 37247. I am watching Echolink, so I can see it there. If you type something to me, I'll be able to see it over on Echolink. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio and video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check in the net electronically by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Look down for tonight's announcement for Skynet. Click on the hot link and check in. We'll acknowledge you on the air. And don't worry, if you want to check in via voice, we'll continue to do that. And I've got to go and find that hot link again. Hold on just a moment. Okay, I'm looking at the hot link now, so I can see that. Let's see. All amateur operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long, scheduled in several parts. We're running late, so I'm going to go really quick. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, National Space Society, recent astronomical discoveries, the discussion topic of the evening, a special presentation on the Star of Bethlehem, space exploration and space history, and some other things. All amateurs licensed to transmit this frequency are invited to check in. So, via the web sign-in at w5fc.org, we have the following stations. KE5ICX, Tom in Corpus Christi. W5BLT, Bill in Garland. K5MCD, Cody in Dallas. Myself, November 5 Bravo Bravo in Irving. WB50ZL Brenda, who is having some difficulty. So I'm not sure if she's going to be able to transmit, but we'll see. N5LIG Dale, who is currently in Mississippi. He checked into TechNet earlier this evening. KF5JHA Chaz with Bob the Cat riding shotgun. And NT5TM Tony in Bird City, Dallas. Okay. Do we have any RF check-ins? RF check-in. Oh, actually, short-time check-ins. Do we have any short-time check-ins for Skynet? If so, please come down with your call sign, your name, and your location. Short-time check-ins inside BB. Do we have any short-time check-ins to Skynet? This is inside BB, net control. Well, this may be a short net. Okay, let's look for general check-ins. So general RF check-ins. If you'd like a check-in on RF, please come down with your call sign, your name, and your location. RF check-ins only.
This is Alpha Golf 5 Papa Mike Rich in Rockwall, AG 5 p.m. This is Whiskey Bravo 4 Mike Foxtrot India WB 4MFI Head Dallas Low Power.
Maybe a very short nap. All I got for RF check-ins was AG 5 p.m. Rich and WB4MFI. ZOE. Is that it? Is that all the RF check-ins we have? One more try for RF check-ins for Skynet. This is N5BB, net control.
Kilo Foxtrot 5 Zulu Bravo Lima Bill Farmer Sprint.
I recognize Bill, KF5ZBL, and the other station was not holding the repeater. Try again. Last call for RF check-ins for Skynet. This is N5BB. Please check in now. Nothing heard. Maybe everybody uses the web form tonight. So I see on Echolink N5LIG, who checked in on the web form, and KF5JHA, Chaz and Bob the Cat, they checked in, and so did Tom. So nobody new on Echolink, but I would like to recognize NV5F, Virginia, in Fort Worth. She checked in using the web form also. So one more try. Do we have any check-ins via any mode? This is N5BB, Skynet, backup net control. Okay, nothing heard. Maybe a very short net. Okay, do we have any general announcements? Anything about astronomy, space, or ham radio? If so, please come now.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Whiskey 5, Golf Uniform Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas, late check-in.
I'm sorry, I doubled with you, Gus. I heard W5GUS. Gus, is that only a check-in, or do you have any announcements?
Check-in, late check-in, W5GUS.
Okay, before we go ahead, do we have any additional check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey, Victor Lima, James and Carrollton.
And that's KG5WVN. Wait a minute, KG5WVL. Is that right, James? The last letter of your call sign is L. Is that correct?
That's correct, KG5WBL.
Couldn't read my own scribbling, James. I recognize you. Okay, one last try before we go on to news. Any other check-ins to Skynet? Nothing heard. Tony, go ahead with your news. NT5TM and 5BB.
Thank you, Bill. First, I'd like to encourage hams to try an extremely unusual radio project. We can only do this once a year. These are the same messages that countries send to nuclear submarines. Yes, it's VLF. Do you want to try some very low frequency reception? Go to your favorite search engine and look for SAQ, Sierra, Alpha, Quebec, Christmas Eve morning message. This is really hard to receive. I've never done it, but I still try every year. I hope you all will too. Maybe one of you will beat me and receive it. It's hard to get VLF messages when you're inland. Just look up the whole history of SAQ, Sierra Alpha Quebec. It's just an amazing feat of radio and magnetic technology, and wow. If you can hear this, completely pat you on the back. Brian, AJ5GNF, did remind us, don't forget that your kids and grandkids, grandnieces, grandnephews, can call Santa on the air. Go to cqsanta.com, CharlieQuebecSanta.com for more information. Yes, it's still possible. It's going to sound staticky, which is going to make it more impressive to kids because it's a little tough. cqsanta.com. Tonight's Afterglow movie is the extraordinarily bad, dubbed Italian science fiction movie Planets Against Us from 1962. Planets Against Us from 1962. It's apparently available on Pluto TV, and I've been avoiding that. I'm just poking Pluto TV with a 10-foot pole at this point because I don't want to watch that movie. But we're going to talk about it at between, 10:30, 10:35 tonight. We do have a Geeknet this Monday. I've been saving up some really strange news items. I hope you'll bring whatever you like to geek out on. Is it butterflies, postage stamps, dog training tips? It really doesn't matter. If you like to geek out about it, you are very welcome on the fourth Monday of the month, which is this Monday at 7 p.m. on this repeater. And last but not least, this month has a fifth Monday, December 30th. This month has a fifth Monday. I do have a good plan, but you, yes, you, are you listening? Yeah, this means you. You might have a better plan. If you have a good idea for what to do with our fifth Monday net, send an email to nets, N-E-T-S, at w5fc.org. Nets at w5fc.org. I totally am interested in whatever you've got because I think I have a good plan, but your plan could be 1,000 times better. I don't know yet. You haven't sent it to me. Anyway, NT5TM, back to net.
Very good, Tony. This is N5BB. Skynet Net Control. Do we have any questions or comments about Tony's news items?
November Victor 5 Foxtrot.
ND5F, go right ahead, Virginia.
Okay, thank you, Bill. And thank you, Tony, for the reminder about the SAQ Christmas Eve morning VLF message. I did look that up. I would like to give it a try. Of course, for us, it's in the wee hours of the morning, probably around 1:30 in the morning. And I wanted to say that on the website I found there's also an announcement that they're going to do a YouTube live stream of it, and it begins at 0725 UTC on Christmas Eve. So that would be like, I think, about 1:30 in the morning here. So that might be fun to watch live in V5F.
Well, thank you for those additional comments there, Virginia. Do we have any other comments or news items? I've got one. Any other comments or news items before we move forward in the net? This is N5BB, Skynet. Yeah, I see on Echolink that Brenda says that she got a message from Spectrum a few hours ago that there's internet issues in her area. So maybe that's what's causing her difficulty. Okay, I've got a news item, local, well, it's amateur radio related. I received this via email during TechNet this evening where I was net control, so I didn't see it till after TechNet. Free extra class license class. There's an online free extra class license class going on. It's a weekly live amateur radio extra class licensing course on Zoom. It'll begin on Thursday, January the 16th, 2025, and run through Thursday, March the 27th. There will be 11 sessions. They're 3-hour sessions. So I guess this is 33 total hours. Wow. And they'll start at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, which would be 5:30 p.m. here Central Time. The sessions will be recorded. Those attending should hold or be studying for the general class amateur radio license. These are the classes that we've been holding for years, sponsored by the National Electronics Museum. Please publicize this with anybody you'd thought would be interested. If you're interested for attending this class, you can sign up via email. Here's the email address: roland.anders@comcast.net. So I'll spell this: ROLAND@comcast.net. That's roland.anders@comcast.net. If anybody has questions about this, I can forward this email to you. I read the whole thing. There's not any more information. But I could forward this to you or read it back out on the air here. So any questions or comments about the free extra class license course, 3-hour courses on Zoom, starting on Thursday, January 16th for 11 sessions. Any questions or comments? This is N5BB Skynet.
KE5ICX.
Do we have any additional check-ins or news items before we continue with the net? This is N5BB, Skynet Net Control.
KE5ICX.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, Bill, just to follow up on your announcement there, the extra class training. Get the additional information by going to the website, k3psg.com. That's Kilo 3, Papa Sierra Golf.com. And you'll find the extra class information there as well, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. That did not come through to me on the email I received, because I got it forwarded from somebody else and they didn't include that. Okay, no problems. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, I see online Antonio, AG9SG in Dallas, checked in. Good evening, Antonio. Okay, next. We've gone through announcements. I think Tony did all of those. So there's an AMSAT net east here locally on this repeater every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Come to this repeater at 8 p.m. on Tuesday evening for the AMSAT net east. Don't know if they're going to have one here on Christmas Eve, but that's when it's scheduled, 8 p.m. Christmas Eve is coming Tuesday. On Wednesday, which of course is Christmas Day, so there's also unlikely it'll be held this week. There will be the AMSAT net west will be Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington 147.140 megahertz repeater. That repeater is a positive offset. It's also 110.9 PL tone. There's a lot of nets on Monday evenings at 7 p.m. And this week we should have GeekNet. So Monday at 7 p.m. we should have GeekNet. Tony, can you tell us anything about what's going to be going on GeekNet on Monday, NT5TM and 5BB? Must be distracted either by birds or by food or by hungry birds. Some combination of those. We had TechNet this evening at 7 p.m. On Saturday evenings, we have Skynet from 9 to 10:30 on Saturday nights. Afterglow movie at 10:30 p.m. Tom, do you want to discuss your great description of the movie we're listening to, we're talking about tonight at 10:30. It's Italian. Wow. K5ICX and 5BB.
Oh, sure, Bill. Here it is. This is for Planets Against Us tonight at 10:30. Maria Ferrai loved parties, and she would get invited to the best ones. Those with scientists who not only created paralyzing gas, but could foxtrot, too. Marina looked into Professor Borey's bloodshot eyes, and it was love at first sight. Borey spoke in a low, measured, almost seductive voice. I'm marketing my paralyzing gas as both a high-technology weapon for the military and also as a room odorizer. I think the smell of butternut is most seductive, don't you? But before Marina could respond, Borey's butternut paralyzing gas did its best. Marina crumbled to dust, a nice-smelling dust, but a dust nevertheless. Thus began the incomprehensible alien invasion, one that wasn't planned out too well. Join us for the Italian Fellini on science fiction film, Planets Against Us. And boy, are they. Our holiday classic film tonight at 10:30 p.m. It just wouldn't be Christmas without Fellini on science fiction. Back to you, Bill, KE5ICX.
Okay, Tom. Was Fleety really involved in this? I think he's pulling her leg. Or he's got his tongue in his cheek. Okay, the National Traffic System has a training net every evening at 6:30 p.m. Central Time on this repeater, 146.88. So you learn how formal message traffic is done. Listen before you check in. Only check in at the proper time. There's also a National Traffic System net on the Irving WA5CKF repeater at 9:30 p.m. every evening on 146.72 megahertz. That net is going on right now, or maybe it's just finished. I saw them transmitting a moment ago. I'm probably desensing the repeater since I'm so close to it. Okay. So Tom's discussed. Okay, next. It's time for the Texas Astronomical Society. Chaz, KF5JHA. Looks like short news this month. Go ahead. This is N5BB.
Bill, and thanks for being net control tonight. There is no Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas club meeting in December because there was a holiday party and awards banquet. But the next one is going to be in January the 24th. That would be the year 2025. So that's the next meeting. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas. That's on Campbell Road. There's also a Zoom component too. The featured speaker is going to be task member Max Cornell. His topic is going to be orbital light pollution. Well, I've had that problem with some images I've taken with satellites streaking through. Saturday night public observing sessions continue. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights, so there could be a live report from the past public observing sessions. Now, on the on the third Saturday of the month, that's tonight, stargazing is held at Cedar Hill. Is there anyone at Cedar Hill that would like to make a report? Come now with your call sign if you'd like to make a report from the stargazing. One there, they could easily hit the repeater from where they're at on top of that hill. All right, you can check the TASS website at texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And this is KF5JHA, back to our net control, N5BB.
Very good, thank you, Chaz. This is N5BB, net control for Skynet. Are there any additional check-ins?
This is WB50ZL. Let's try this again. Can you hear me?
Yes, Brenda, we can finally hear you. Do you want to take over the net right now, or do you want me to continue as net control?
No, I'll go ahead and take over and, plan B. If it doesn't work,
we can always go back. Let me see if I can figure out where you were in the schedule. Would you just tell me where you were at?
Where I need to be transmitting anyway. Number 3, Space Society events and activities. We're getting ready to start that. So I'm ready to go on that.
All right, N5BB, go ahead and tell us about the National Space Society.
Well, thank you, Brenda. I'm glad you got in okay. I happen to be the Vice President and the Membership Director of the National Space Society North Texas Chapter, which is very active. You can reach me at space@byrom.net. That's SPACE@BYROM.net. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. Meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. The next meeting will be held on January the 12th, Sunday afternoon. The topic will be Space 2025. It'll be an overview of what's going on with human activities in space, and it'll be given by our chapter president, Ken Ruffin, who will give that presentation. You can also listen to this via Zoom, remotely, via WebEx. On the last Friday evening of each month, at 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas Chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. The location is Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. This is on the south frontage road of Highway 635, a little bit east of MacArthur Boulevard. Anyone is welcome to attend. You do not have to be a member of any group to be there. The next Space Rendezvous will be held 2 days after Christmas Day on Friday, December 27th. Yes, we will be there. Friday, December the 27th at 6 p.m. at Cheddar's in Irving. So if you want something to do to get out of the house, feel free to come on by. Our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Search for National Space Society of North Texas. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill, N5BB, at my email address listed on QRZ, or space@byrom.net. That's all I've got, Brenda. This is N5BB. And by the way, Brenda, the people who have checked in on RF are HE5PM, WB4MFI, KI5ZOE, KF5ZBL, W5GUS, and KG5WVL. Everybody else I got from the web form, and I've acknowledged everybody currently on the form through Antonio. WB50ZL, this is N5BB, turning net control back to you.
Thank you so much, Bill, for taking over for me. I really appreciate it. I have no idea why this thing kept kicking me out just over and over and over again. It was really weird. But it seems to be working now, so we'll just go with it. Do we have any more check-ins right now? This is WB50ZL. All right, hearing none, we're going to go on to our feature for the evening, presented by me. And this is about the U.S. Space Force. 5 years later, what has it accomplished so far, and where does it go from here? The U.S. Space Force celebrates its 5th anniversary yesterday, December 20th. The service was formally established on December 20th, 2019, when President Donald Trump signed it into law with the National Defense Authorization Act, the bill that allocates U.S. military spending each year. Since then, the U.S. Space Force has grown to nearly 15,000 service members and civilian personnel. In its 5th year, the Space Force has overseen astronaut launches from its facility at Florida's Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and has even seen one of its own active guardians, as Space Force members are known, launch into space. From GPS navigation to weather forecasting, from broadband internet to early warning missile detection systems, the U.S., like many other nations, increasingly depends on space-based technologies for its way of life. Space Force's role in protecting and overseeing these technologies has evolved and grown over the last 5 years and will likely continue to do so as it moves forward. But just what has the Space Force accomplished in its first 5 years, and where will it go from here? The Space Force was established in 2019. The existing U.S. Air Force Space Command was inactivated, and all of its space units were assigned to Space Force. From there, Space Force had to develop training materials, create new units dedicated to new types of missions, and even select new uniforms. To consolidate all of its missions under one command, the Space Force activated Space Operations Command at Peterson Air Force Base, now Peterson Space Force Base, in Colorado on October 21st, 2020. Within 2 years, Space Force created Space Delta 1 at the base to serve as America's epicenter of space power and help support operations at dozens of locations worldwide, according to a Space Force statement. Deltas are units with specific missions or functions ranging from operations, facility support, or training. Space Launch Delta 45 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, for example, oversees all space launch operations from the U.S. East Coast. With its basic organizational structure in place, Space Force, through Air Force, I'll stand by. I've got to reset. Sorry. With the basic organizational structure in place, the Space Force, through the Air Force Recruiting Service, began the process of recruiting new Guardians in September 2020. By December of that year, the service saw the first 7 Guardians to enlist directly in the Space Force from basic training. You will lay the foundation of a service that is innovative and can go fast in order to stay ahead of a significant and growing threat. And you, if deterrence fails, will fight and win the battle for space superiority that is so valuable to our nation, then Chief of Space Operations General John J. Raymond said at the enlistment ceremony. In 2021, the Space Force
debuted its first official uniforms after getting its official flag and somewhat Star Trek-looking emblem. By 2022, with its logistical and organizational structures in place, the service is already looking ahead creating units dedicated to tracking threats in orbit or targeting adversarial nations' satellites. Within just a few years, Space Force had its own large-scale training exercises and counter-space weaponry aimed solely at protecting American spacecraft or disrupting other nations' satellites in the event of a conflict. To highlight this new focus, the service unveiled a lean new mission statement on September 23rd, consisting of just 9 brief words: secure our nation's interest in, from, and to space. All right, that's the end of that article. I think it comes from space.com. So, do we have any more check-ins? Please come now.
KK9ZZK, your friend down here in Fairfield, Texas. Sure if I'm making the trip. KK9ZZK, Dallas, Texas. Excuse me, Fairfield, Texas.
I got the first part in Fairfield. I didn't get your name. Would you come back with your full call sign, please, a little slower, and give us your name?
I'm sorry. Kilo 9 Zulu Kilo. I'm about 100 miles south of you in Fairfield. My name is Tim. Tango India Mike. Over.
Perfect. I got Kilo 9, Zulu Kilo, and Tim in Fairfield. Thank you for joining us. All right, next up is recent astronomical discoveries. The title is, and this is not a joke, dark energy doesn't exist, so it can't be pushing lumpy universe apart. One of the biggest mysteries in science, dark energy, doesn't actually exist, according to researchers looking to solve the riddle of how the universe is expanding. For the past 100 years, physicists have generally assumed that the cosmos is growing equally in all directions. They employed the concept of dark energy as a placeholder to explain always had its problems. Now, a team of physicists and astronomers at the University of Canterbury in Christchurch, New Zealand, are challenging the status quo, using improved analysis of supernovae light curves to show that the universe is expanding in a more varied, lumpier way. The new evidence supports the timescape model of cosmic expansion, which doesn't have a need for dark energy because the differences in stretching light aren't the result of an accelerating universe, but instead a consequence of how we calibrate time and distance. It takes into account that gravity slows time, so an ideal clock in empty space ticks faster than inside a galaxy. The model suggests that a clock in the Milky Way would be about 35% slower than the same one at an average position in large cosmic voids, pardon me, meaning billions more years would have passed in voids. This would in turn allow more expansion of space, making it seem like the expansion is getting faster when such vast empty voids grow to dominate the universe. Professor David Wiltshire, who led the study, said, "Our findings show that we do not need dark energy to explain why the universe appears to expand at an accelerating rate. Dark energy is a misidentification of variations in the kinetic energy of expansion, which is not uniform in a universe as lumpy as the one we actually live in. He added, the research provides compelling evidence that may resolve some of the key questions around the quirks of our expanding cosmos. With new data, the universe's biggest mystery could be settled by the end of the decade. The new analysis has been published in the journal Monthly Notices of the Royal Astronomical Society Letters. Stand by. Dark energy is commonly thought to be a weak anti-gravity force which acts independently of matter and makes up about 2/3 of the mass energy density of the universe. The standard lambda cold dark matter, ACDM, model of the universe requires dark energy to explain the observed acceleration in the rate at which the cosmos is expanding. Scientists base this conclusion on measurements of the distances to supernova explosions in distant galaxies, which appear to be farther away than they should be if the universe's expansion were not accelerating. However, the present expansion rate of the universe is increasingly being challenged by new observations. Firstly, evidence from the afterglow of the Big Bang, known as the cosmic microwave background, CMB, shows the expansion of the early universe is at odds with current expansion, an anomaly known as the Hubble tension. In addition, recent analysis of new high-precision data by the Dark Energy Spectroscope Instrument, DESI, has found that the ACDM model does not fit as well as models in which dark energy is evolving over time rather than remaining constant. Both the Hubble tension and the surprises revealed by DESI are difficult to resolve in models which use a simplified 100-year-old cosmic expansion row, Friedman's equation. This assumes that, on average, the universe expands uniformly, as if all cosmic structures could be put through a blender to make a featureless soup with no complicating structure. However, the present universe actually contains a cosmic web of galaxy clusters in sheets and filaments that surround and thread vast empty voids. Professor Wiltshire added, we now have so much data that in the 21st century we can finally answer the question, how and why does a simple average expansion law emerge from complexity? A simple expansion law consistent with Einstein's general relativity does not have to obey Friedman's equation. The researchers say that the European Space Agency's Euclid satellite, which was launched in July 2023, has the power to test and distinguish the Friedman equation from the timescape alternative. However, this will require at least 1,000 independent high-quality supernovae observations. When the proposed timescape model was last tested in 2017, the analysis suggested it was only a slightly better fit than the ACDM as an explanation for cosmic expansion. So the Christchurch team worked closely with the Pantheon Plus collaboration team who had painstakingly produced a catalog of 1,535 distinct supernova. Going to reset. When the proposed timescape model was last tested in 2017, the analysis suggested it was only a slightly better fit than the ACDM as an explanation for cosmic expansion, so the Christchurch team worked closely with the Pantheon Plus collaboration team who had painstakingly produced a catalog of 1,535 distinct supernovae. They say the new data now provides very strong evidence for timescape. It may also point to a compelling resolution of the Hubble tension and other anomalies related to the expansion of the universe. Further observations from Euclid and the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope are needed to bolster support for the timescape model, the researchers say, and with the race now on to use this wealth of new data to reveal the true nature of cosmic expansion and dark energy. This is an article from ScienceDaily.com, and let's see, find my place again. All right, let's move along. Tonight, Chaz, KF5JHA, will present his special feature, The Star of Bethlehem. Please go ahead, Chaz.
Good evening.
Thank you, Brenda. I was just looking at the clock. The Star of Bethlehem presentation is going to take about 20 minutes. Do you want me to continue? Do you want me to go ahead and do the presentation, or do you want to postpone that to next week? This is KF5JHA.
Go ahead and do the presentation, and all the stuff after that, we might cut some of that short or postpone it to next week. So I think since this is topical for Christmas, we should go ahead and proceed with it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Brenda. All right, Slide Masters, slide number 2, please. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. We normally talk about the segment of Skynet called What Is Up, but this is a special program on the Star of Bethlehem. Slide Master, slide number 3. Tonight I want to talk about the skies, but not the sky tonight, nor what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks, but rather something that happened over 2,000 years ago, the Star of Bethlehem. Now, before we delve into the science, we need to know some facts. What is the description of the star, and when did it occur? To get some basic information, we first need to go to the Bible. So let's begin with the 2nd chapter of the book of Luke, verses 1 through 7. Actually, we'll start at verse 2. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census would be taken in the entire Roman world. This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria, and everyone went to their own town to be registered. So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born. She gave birth to her firstborn son. She wrapped him in clothes and laid him in a manger, because there was no guest room for them available. Okay, so that will help us to place when the star happened. We can get more information on the date and the description of the star by looking at the 2nd chapter of Matthew, verses 1 through 16. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one that has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When they had called together all the people and the chief priests and the teachers of the law, they asked him where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." Slide Master, slide number 5, please. When King Herod called Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared, he sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report that to me, so I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star which they had seen went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming into the house, they saw the child and his mother Mary. and they bowed down and worshipped him. When they had opened their treasures and presented to him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, and having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. Slide master, slide number 6, please. When they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. Get up and take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him. So he got up and took the child and the mother over there. His name is Tom. Thank you, Tom. Since there's some historical figures that are listed in the passages, we can find out when they lived to narrow down the time. Octavius was awarded the title of Augustus in 28 BC. His full title was Caesar Augustus and lived until the year 14. Now let's look at Herod. Herod is a title and is generally agreed that the Herod that is in this part of the Bible refers to Herod the Great. The Jewish historian Flavius Josephus wrote the entire scrolls on Herod the Great. Many Josephus manuscripts place the death of Herod the Great at around 4 BC. And the famous astronomer Kepler, yes, Kepler, we know Kepler, when he had refined the motion of the planets, decided to try to find the star of Bethlehem and wrote 2 books on the topic. Kepler looked at the years 7 to 4 BC and could not find the star. What we now understand is that the earliest manuscripts of Josephus actually dated Herod's death around 1 BC, not 4 BC. There may have been a copying error in the later manuscripts. This gives us another 3 years in which to look for the star. Herod the Great was very paranoid about people and would try to kill them and take over their positions. So killing only a handful of baby boys 2 years and younger around Bethlehem, since the area was sparsely populated, would just been a small thing to him. What would probably take would make Jesus being born between 3 and 1 BC. Now we've narrowed down when the star appeared. Let's figure out what it was. 2,000 years ago, the word star meant any light in the sky. So let's explore some possible explanations. Slide master, slide number 8. Meteors are streaks of light across the sky that last a fraction of a second or for as long as a minute. A meteor is just a small piece of debris that runs into the Earth's atmosphere, and the friction is so great that they burn up. A very bright meteor, called a bolide or a fireball, can be very impressive, and I've seen a number of bolides during my observing sessions. But the star of Bethlehem was a much longer lasting thing. What about a meteor shower or a meteor storm? Meteor storms were frightening and usually considered to be evil rather than good. So we'll rule that out. Slide master, slide number 9, please. Well, what about a comet? Comets are dirty snowballs that when they get close to the sun form a tail of material from their melted ices. Comets could last for days, weeks, or months in the sky. We've had one recently that we've been able to track. But they were also considered signs of, well, bad, or a bad omen. Also, the Chinese, who were very good sky watchers, did not record a comet during the years of 3 to 1 BC. Okay, let's try something else. Slide number 10, please. How about a nova or a supernova in the sky? Nova and supernova are caused by processes at the end of stellar lifetimes, and we've talked about that before on Skynet. The sudden appearance of a new star in the sky could have been the star of Bethlehem, but once again, the cultures recorded a nova and supernova during that period of time? Nope, they did not. This is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 11. There are wandering stars in the sky. We call them planets. I regularly talk about the dance of the planets across the sky. The planets move in a way that is not well understood until the time of Kepler. Most of the time, the planets move from west to east against the background of stars. But one or more times a year, they go backwards, which we call retrograde motion. This is caused by the faster-moving Earth catching up and passing the slower planet in their orbit. It's like the passing of a slower car on I-635. Everything goes slow at 635 with the construction. The slower car appears briefly to be going backwards compared to the background buildings, but both of you and the slower car are still going in the same direction. This is why the planet appears to stop and change directions. Slide master, slide number 12. Now, I used a computer software program called Stellarium. I went back to the year 2 BC, August the 12th. Yes, if you use that software, you have to have a negative for BC years. I said the location of Bethlehem or even Babylon would be a good choice because that's where the Magi's originated from. More about the Magi in a few minutes. On August the 12th, 2 BC, the planets Venus and Jupiter were in conjunction. Conjunction is when two objects are close to each other in the sky. Jupiter is considered the king planet and Venus is the woman or mother planet. Actually, this was a really close conjunction, but this kind of thing would happen regularly. But the series of events after that is really fascinating. Slide master, slide number 13. On September the 14th, 2 BC, the planet Jupiter is in conjunction with the star Regulus. Regulus is considered the king star. The king planet and the king star being in conjunction is significant. But again, this happens about every 12 years. Slide master, slide number 14. Remember the retrograde motion with things going backwards? On November the 27th, 2 BC, Jupiter stops and goes backwards. Slide master, slide number 15. Then Jupiter passes by Regulus again for a second time on February the 15th, 1 BC. Oh, not finished with that yet. Slide master, slide number 16. On March 29th, 1 BC, Jupiter stops again and resumes its regular eastward motion. Slide master, slide number 17. Jupiter passes by Regulus for a third time on May the 9th, 1 BC. This series of conjunctions are really rare. Also, Jupiter has just traced out a halo or a crown around Regulus, the king star. But there's one more event that makes this series of conjunctions even more unique. Slide master, slide number 18. On June the 17th, 1 BC, the planet Venus gets so close to Jupiter that they appear almost as a single object in the sky. If they had telescopes 2,000 years ago, the planet Venus would have been so close to Jupiter that it'd be in the same field of view as the 4 Galilean moons of Jupiter. It would have been appearing to just the naked eye as a single and the brightest object in the sky that anyone had ever seen other than the sun or the moon. Slide master, slide number 19. Talked about is a series of conjunctions that took place in the constellation of Leo the Lion, which is a symbol of Judah. So the astronomer, this sounds like astrology, doesn't it, to an astronomer, but let me propose an idea. Astrology says that the stars can determine your future, but what if it works the other way around? What if the sky is like a thermometer that just measures what's going on rather than controlling like a thermostat? Okay. This is KF5JJ and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 20. I have a copy of a book that Michael Molnar has written, the book which investigates a coin with a ram and a star. This led him to look at different astronomical events that pointed to April the 17th, 6 BC. It's when he thinks Jesus was born. We'll probably never know for sure when Jesus' birth occurred, nor know exactly what the Star of Bethlehem could have been. Slide master, slide number 21. Planetariums across the world present programs every year during December about the possible explanations for the Star of Bethlehem. Of course, you can't rule out a miracle, but we don't have any way of measuring a miracle unless you have a time machine that we could go back in time. Of course, we've had lots of afterglow movies about time travel, haven't we? Slide master, slide number 22. Friend from years ago, Jay Alkes, he wrote a short science fiction story that explained the Star of Bethlehem. I like the story, so I'm going to summarize it right here. The story goes something like this. A present-day group of 3 scientists built a time machine powered by an exotic fuel source. Yeah, you can figure that one out. The first place they wanted to try to go back in time was to see the birth of Jesus. So they studied to determine the correct date. They knew what location. They tried to learn the languages for that part of the world during that time. They had clothes designed and fabricated to be the correct for that time period. And knowing that they may need to stay there for weeks or maybe even months, they took some valuable things to trade: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. They got to the machine and pressed the button. In moments, they were back 2,000 years into the past. As soon as they arrived, they realized that their craft was leaking energy, and they would only have a couple of hours and not weeks or months to explore. So they walked to the closest tiny village and wandered the few streets and found a family with a newborn baby in a small open animal shelter. They realized this family was so poor that rather than taking the materials back with them, they left their trading items with the family. They hurried back to their ship to find the energy leak was so great that the beam of light was projecting it into the sky. They barely had time to make it back to their time frame before the energy gave out. It would be a long time before they would try this adventure again. I like this story. Slide master, slide number 23. By the way, we don't know how many wise men or magi there were. The Bible lists 3 gifts, which a lot of people have inferred that there were 3 wise men. It is likely that an entire caravan of people accompanied these magi. Who were the magi? There are at least 2 main lines of thought. The first, that these are descendants of the prophet Daniel. There is no record of Daniel leaving Babylon after the exile and returning to Israel. The second idea is that they were Zoroastrian priests living in Babylon that were astrologers. The current Zoroastrian religion makes note of this fact of priests traveling to honor Jesus' birth as part of their path. And I've even talked with a DFW resident who is a Zoroastrian about the Magi, and they confirmed this. Wow. Slide master, slide number 24. Time of the year, there are many celebrations around the winter solstice, which is the shortest day and the longest night of the year. Many cultures have celebrations involving lights. My prayer to all of you is that you spend this holiday with family and friends, enjoying the company of each other. My youngest daughter, when she was around 4 years old, said that relationships were the most important thing. At 4 years old, she said that. We need to learn from that 4-year-old, don't we? Slide master, slide number 25. I've used several resources in this presentation, including the Stellarium computer software. You can get that at stellarium.org. It's free. If you want more information about the Star of Bethlehem, you can visit our website, bethlehemstar.com. And you can also check out the book, The Star of Bethlehem by Michael Molnar, Molnar, on Amazon. It's there. Slide master, slide number 26. And until next time, keep looking up so you know what's up. This is Chaz, KF5JJ, wishing all of you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And back to our net control. Brenda, I made it in 20 minutes. It's all yours.
Very good. Thank you so much, Chaz. Next up, we're going to have Tom, KE5ICX, to read News, history, and birthdays. He put these together this time. Normally I alternate with Kelly, but Kelly's out for a few months, and Tom was kind enough to put all this together for me this week, and so I'm going to let him read it. Please go ahead, K5ICX.
All right, thank you, Brenda. This is KE5ICX. Let's start with space exploration news. December 18th, Space Force says their first national security Vulcan launch now anticipated for spring of 2025. This mission for the United Launch Alliance Vulcan rocket might not occur until April of 2025 at the earliest, Space Force said. The third flight of Vulcan is set to carry a payload of the U.S. Space Force on a mission dubbed USSF 106, but before that happens, Vulcan needs to complete its certification to launch missions under the National Security Space Launch, or NSSL, Phase 2 contract. On Tuesday, spokesman for the NSSF, United Space Command, which oversees the launch procurements for NSSL, boy, a lot of acronyms, said that the second quarter 2025 anticipates this first mission. The government has not completed its technical evaluation and certification criteria and working closely with ULA on additional data required to complete the evaluation. Next up, the moon may be 100 million years older than originally thought. The moon may have received a volcanic facelift, making it more than 100 million years older than the rocks collected from its surface might suggest, a new study finds. There's a number of reasons to suspect the moon is older. For instance, there are rare lunar zircon minerals that suggest the moon was born about 4.5 billion years ago. In addition, many scientists have created simulations of planetary formation, suggest that the collision huge enough to create the moon was unlikely to happen 250 million years after the origin of the solar system. Although giant cosmic impacts were common in the solar system's earliest days, the orbitodynamic models suggest that most of the massive rocks behind such titanic clashes were swept up into larger bodies by about 4.4 billion years ago. The new study suggests possible explanation for this discrepancy, and the lunar surface melted 4.5 billion years ago. 9-hour spacewalk beats the old duration by 10 minutes. Kai Junxi and Song Lingdong, part of China's three-person Shenzhou 19 mission, spent more than 9 hours spacewalking outside the Tiangong space station from late Monday night through Tuesday morning. According to officials within the Chinese Manned Space Engineering Office, that broke the previous duration record of a single EVA, which was 8 hours and 56 minutes, according to NASA. That mark was set by NASA's astronauts James Voss and Susan Helms outside the International Space Station back in 2001. Birthdays, we have Andy Thomas, born December 18th, 1951. He was on STS 77, 89, 91, STS 102 and 114. Frederick Leslie was born December 19th, 1951. He was on STS 73. Michael E. Fossum was born December 19th, 1957. He was on STS 121, 124. Soyuz TMA-02M and Expedition 2829. Millie Hughes Fulford was born December 21st, 1945, flew STS-40. John L. Finley was born December 22nd, 1935, in no missions, but he was part of the USAF secret MOL Group 1 that was to fly with the U.S. Air Force. Carol J. Bobko was born December 23rd, 1937. He flew STS-6, 51D, and 51J. This week in space history, we have, on December 15th, 1965, Gemini 6A was launched with astronauts Wally Schirra and Tom Stafford. The mission was originally scheduled for launch of October 1965 to make the first space rendezvous. Their goal was to dock with a target vehicle. However, they the Gina did not make it into orbit. So Gemini 6 was reassigned to launch after Gemini 7 and rendezvous with it instead. The A was added to their mission to designate the alternate plan. They wouldn't be able to dock, but would practice rendezvous and close maneuvering. With hair-raising launch abort on December 12th, Schirra and Stafford finally launched on December 15th. They successfully rendezvoused with Gemini 7, and the spacecraft circled each other for 5 hours and 19 minutes over 3.5 orbits. Gemini 7 returned to Earth the next day, and this was the first successful rendezvous of 2 manned spacecraft. April 17th landing on December 19th, 1972. The Apollo 17 command module with astronauts Eugene Cernan, Ronald Evans, and Harrison Schmitt aboard near splashdown in the South Pacific Ocean to successfully conclude the final lunar landing mission of the Apollo program. The overhead view, well, we don't have the overhead view, and I don't even have a picture of it. At any rate, it shows them being recovered at that time. Next up is the December 21st, 1968, Apollo 8 launch. It was the first crewed spacecraft to leave Earth orbit and the first manned spacecraft to reach the moon. They orbited 10 times without landing and departed safely back to Earth. These 3 astronauts, Frank Borman, James Lovell, and Bill Anders, were the first humans to witness and photograph the far side of the moon and Earthrise. Next up are space launches. We have coming up on December 23rd, Falcon 9 launch of Starlink 12-2. This will be from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy. They'll launch another batch of Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit. To be determined, we got NG-1 New Glenn that will launch. We don't know when, but it will be from Launch Complex 36. Then in spring of 2025, the New Glenn will also launch an Escapade. This will be from Launch Complex 36, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Then a Vulcan Centaur will launch in 2025. It's been moved to 2025, Dream Chaser 1. This will be a cargo vehicle to the International Space Station. Dream Chaser is a lifting resupply of the rocket that will launch on a rocket and land on a runway. This will be Dream Chaser's first flight. Next up is the satellite passages over the next couple of days. Tiangong, no ISS passes that are favorable right now, unfortunately. However, I do have a couple of, well, I've got one for Tiangong, which is the Chinese space station in orbit, which I just mentioned. This one will be minus 1.4 magnitude. It will launch. It will be at 1846 our time. It'll reach its highest height at 1849 at 39 degrees of the south-southeast, and it'll fall at 1850 to the east-southeast. December 29th has a very short pass, but you can check it, minus 0.5. 1924 in the evening out of the west-southwest reaches its highest point at 34 degrees. 1926 it'll fall to the west at 1926. That's it, Brenda. Back to you. KE5ICX.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Thank you so much, Tom. I really appreciate all that. And I think we're about out of time. I don't know how many check-ins we had tonight. I only took one, and I don't have access to that, to the sign-in. I never could find it. Does anybody know how many hams we had?
This is in 5EB. Brenda, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I checked in 6 people via RF. But I just closed the window for the online check-in. If you give me about a minute, I'll bring it back up again. It's BB.
Brenda, I have 11 on the electronic check-ins. I have it open here. KE5ICX.
Thanks. So 11 and 6, and I did 1, so that's 18. All right, and 18 hands participating on the air. Thanks to all who checked in this evening. I hope you'll join us here next week at every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Till next Saturday night, this is WB50ZL, Brenda, and I'll be closing the net at 10:32 p.m. local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. Join us in 5 minutes for the Afterglow movie, and which is Planets. What's the name of this turkey? Planets Against Us, I think. Well, show up and find out. You'll just be very enlightened. And so 72, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe.
Good evening, everyone. This is Virginia, NV5F. I am going to be the Afterglow net control, so we'll get started probably in about 5 minutes. NV5F. already started. Once again, my name is Virginia. My call sign is NV5F, and this is the Afterglow. Anyone who's crazy enough to watch a really bad science fiction movie and stay up this late can join us. Even if you haven't seen the movie, you can join us. What we do is we assign a movie, usually a bad science fiction movie. Sometimes we pick a good one, and we watch it, and then the next week on Saturday evening after Skynet, we sit up late and talk about it. So what will happen is I will read a synopsis of the movie, and then I'll take some check-ins, and then we'll go around and talk to each person about what they thought of this movie. The first round will be the plot of the movie. The second round will be acting and characterization. If we have time for a third round, we'll do special effects, music, whatever you want. Either way, if we don't have a lot of time, we'll just take final comments from anybody who has round 3 type comments. So, our movie this week is called Planets Against Us. This is from the year 1962. It is, it's an Italian science fiction movie directed by Romano Ferrara, and it's based on a story by Massimo Rendina, and it's also known by the names Planets Around Us, Hands of a Killer, The Man with the Yellow Eyes, and The Monster with Green Eyes. Wow, that's a lot of titles. It is notable for featuring a planned invasion by cyborgs, humanoid-shaped robots, rather than the common sci-fi film plot of aliens inhabiting or taking over or duplicating humans. So here's the plot. Let's see. The plane carrying atomic scientist Professor Landerson and his son Robert crashes in the Sahara Desert, killing everyone on board. Robert's body is not found. In the United States and USSR, several rocket launches fall disastrously, with an individual closely resembling Robert Landerson seen at exactly the same time. He then vanishes without a trace. The authorities start to suspect the involvement of alien beings and start a worldwide manhunt to find the mysterious man. In Rome, artist Audrey Bradbury encounters the man, who behaves oddly. She's attracted to him and decides to call him Bronco. At a party resembling a scene from a contemporary Fellini film, Bronco meets Marina Ferry, who is engaged to Professor Bori, who is developing a paralyzing gas. She is also attracted to Bronco, who wishes to meet Professor Bori. When Bronco and Marina are stopped in her car by the police, Bronco touches an officer with his bare hand, and he dies instantly. Later at Audrey's home, Audrey tries to kiss Bronco. He believes she has unwittingly betrayed him to the police and touches her back, making her crumble to dust.
4, 8, 9, 0, 2.
Meanwhile, the authorities from another planet, all with identical appearances based on that of Robert Landerson. Bronco is drawn to Marina and tells her he is not human. After warning her that humanity is about to make the same mistake with atomic radiation which destroyed his own planet, he then uses his willpower to make her forget what he has told her. She takes him to meet Professor Bori, where the police secretly X-ray him and discover he has a metallic skeleton beneath a skin-like covering. They conclude the beings are all made to resemble Robert Landerson, and they intend to invade Earth in search of a new home. The police attempt to track encounters him after a car chase through and around Rome involving the Italian army. The failing Bronco is, targeted by a discharge from the being's flying saucer, which departs into space, leaving him as only a pile of rags and molten metal. Breaking the fourth wall, one of the officials urges the audience to be vigilant, explaining that other beings like Bronco are lurking out there, equally monstrous and eager to take over the Earth. The end. Okay, I will now take check-ins. This is Virginia in B5F, your net control for Afterglow. I will now take check-ins. Please give me your call sign, your name, and what you saw this evening's film. Please come now.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill and Irving? Yes, I saw the movie.
Whiskey 5, bacon, lettuce, tomato. Bill and Garland, and unfortunately, yes, I saw this wonderful film.
This is Alpha India 5 Quebec Echo, and I watched it until I couldn't watch it anymore. Over.
Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray Tom in Corpus Christi. I tried to stay awake. I think I saw a lot of it.
Okay, so far I have N5BB, Bill, yes, he saw the movie. W5BLT, Bill again, yes, he saw the movie. I got AI5QE, yes, sort of saw the movie. And K5ICX, Tom, yes, most of the movie. I'm sure there's a couple other takers out there. Please come now to join the Afterglow.
B5OZL, Brenda. I saw the movie. I didn't hear you call me, so maybe I doubled to somebody.
Okay, you've added Brenda, WB5OZL, and yeah, I didn't hear you, so you unfortunately got stomped that first round. So, okay, well, I guess we'll check at the end of this round to see if anyone has joined us. Sean may be coming in, or Tony's probably put the birds to bed and is snoozing. So, we'll start with Bill, N5BB. Tell us what you think of the plot of Planets Against Us from 1962.
This is N5BB. Thank you, Virginia. Well, I don't know whether to compare it against some other really bad movies we've seen or a normal movie. Compared to a normal movie, horrible plot. Compared to some of the other really bad movies we've seen, typical, late 50s, early 60s sci-fi movie plot. So not really that bad. Typical pseudoscientific, kind of something scientific, some of them, made up, fictional, but it's fiction. It's not a science fact movie, it's a science fiction movie. The movie appeared to be made in Italy and dubbed into English, and it was moderately successful at that. I say moderately. Some areas were horrible. In some areas, the character was singing or doing something, and you didn't hear any of that, or you heard some minimal version of it. So in other areas it was okay. You could kind of follow what was going on. Initially, it was a little confusing to me why the aircraft with the scientists crashed, but then we learned why. We don't see it, but somehow the flying saucer must have forced the airplane down. We had to surmise that from all the available evidence inside BB. So, that part was, I guess, okay. The movie, the plane was shot down, and like everybody died. But we have to assume that the aliens then went over and got the building of the guy, the body of the guy that they kind of reproduced what he looked like. They made up a facial mask for him so he looked like this other person. No indication though of how they made him act human. You know, how did they give this person all this knowledge about how to walk around? How to even walk? That takes a lot of information. They get the robot to walk like a human with two legs and respond to humans and speak, I guess, Italian or whatever. No information. So we just have to surmise it's just magic.
No. 8, 9, 0, 2. Time out.
Right. So I guess that's kind of possible that the aliens had some way to block our humanoid radars. So that's, I guess, conceivable. And of course they had it coming down in the Sahara Desert, which isn't too far from Italy, so they, I'm sure, had some connections there with what went on in northern Africa, so that would make sense to the people that filmed the movie. They could film it comparatively simply. If they did film it down in Tunisia or northern Africa or something, I don't know where they did film it, or whether that was just existing footage they used and just added the death scene. Let's see, what else? The alien creature that calls himself Bronco, I don't know if that was what the name was in Italian, but it's what it came across in English when whatever they did when they dubbed it. He was very stiff. He could respond to humans, but some things they would ask him, or he would not know. He wasn't clear about certain human activities, but he seemed to be very clear about other ones. Like he could drive a car. I don't know how, but he could. And he kind of seemed how to go to different locations. He had some way of figuring out where to go and things. And he had some basic knowledge of how to interact with humans somehow. I don't know how he got it, but he did. Let's see. The part about in the lab, the monkeys being tested with the gas seemed awfully cruel. And the monkeys didn't really do anything. They just kind of sat there. So I guess you're supposed to imagine that they were somehow disabled or something, but it wasn't very convincing. I wasn't very convinced by the gas working on the monkeys. That part to me was very unconvincing part of the movies. I didn't understand why he was developing this gas to incapacitate people, because, you know, there were all these anti-gas and warfare treaties, after World War I and World War II, and I would have thought they would have thought that was something that was not permitted by militaries. So I was a little confused about why they were even working on that kind of gas. What else? Let's see, plot. You had Audrey, Marina, who was in the sports car. She liked to drive fast and zip around in her sports car, and she evidently had a lot of tickets. And but she seemed to be reasonably intelligent and reasonable person. Her girlfriend Marina was a very sexy lady that was a little bit more out of control and willing to take anybody home, including alien robots. Wasn't very careful about these kinds of things. And I thought that a bit strange, but it was the 60s, an Italian movie, and they were jet setter kind of people, hot gals out there, so maybe that's what they did. They both drove sports cars and drove fast and skidded to a stop and all that kind of stuff. Well, anyway, what else about the plot? I thought it was kind of weird that the robot could put on a glove that somehow blocked all these radiation effects. But when he took off the glove, it was deadly. That seemed a little strange, but I guess it's fiction. You have to give him some kind of ability to have some kind of shielding there. I thought it was interesting that Audrey was a sketch artist. That added a little bit of interest to the movie, so I thought that was a good plot. I thought it was interesting that the police in Italy had this remote TV camera thing. This little thing that could send TV images remotely. That's kind of hot technology they had. The fact that Bronco could hypnotize Marina and other people I thought was rather strange. He kind of looked at them and they would do whatever he thought. So this is a little bit outside the rest of the movie. Just a little mystical or paranormal. So that didn't really fit in. At the end, as Virginia said, we're warned by the narrator that hidden robot monsters are about to destroy you now, which was typical crazy into sci-fi movies back then. I don't know. Again, I thought that the plot was better than some, but bad. And the movie was reasonable as far as a movie. To me, it wasn't totally something I wanted to turn off. I wanted to watch and see what happened, but it wasn't a good movie. I hope that describes my beliefs about this. That's all I got in 5BB.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Interesting ideas there. We'll go to the next bill, W5BLT. What did you think of the plot of Planets Against the Spy Bell?
Well, thank you, Virginia. Well, I have to say that I was reading some reviews on this movie, and the first things I saw was that the Italian women looked classy in this movie, and then they compared it to The Invaders, which is a show that I absolutely love, which you can find on YouTube and also on ETV late at night on Sci-Fi Saturdays. I think it's like 4 in the morning or whatever. But anyway, so I was excited about this movie, and then I was thoroughly disappointed. More so for The Invaders. I didn't, I love that show, and so I was getting all geared up, and I was, oh wow, this is disappointing. So yeah, I'm glad Bill filled in a lot of things, the other Bill here, because I didn't know about the sports cars and the women driving the sports cars, because, and I picked up on the fact that this one lady was not careful and invited this alien in, and then paid the price, I think, was in the hospital. So this plot, it's just interesting because it kind of had that Invaders feel, I thought, I much prefer the Invaders or Invasion of the Body Snatchers, that type of movie to this. I was really kind of disappointed and lost in it, and I think they were making that nerve gas to obviously kill people in the cities, but even though there's laws on the world books about not doing stuff, I think our governments are doing it. They're probably doing it anyway, but at least they were in this movie. So, I found myself honestly just waiting for it to be done. And maybe also there was some confusion with the poorly dubbed stuff, that having vision maybe filled in the gaps, because I didn't realize that until Bill pointed that out, that some of the stuff was, you saw it visually, but it wasn't there.
Node 48902.
So yeah, I was kind of good, but ready for it to be done, and I'm going to give you, Virginia, a segue. Usually I give movies like this a pass, a free, get on an Afterglow jail card for free, if they're made before 2001, because 2001 set the standard for how movies, science fiction movies should go forward after that. But I can't give this one a free pass. W5BLT, back to you, Virginia.
Okay, thank you, Bill. I can't imagine what this movie would be like without the visuals of it. I can't say that it was very well filmed overall. It was kind of inconsistent, and I'll get to my opinions at the end of this round. Next we have AI5QE, and you said you saw the movie, or at least tried to see it, and tell us what you thought of the plot, and remind me what your name is so I can put it here on the list in B5F.
All right, Virginia, thank you. The name here is Bob, Bravo, Oscar, Bravo. And I watched it, and then at some point I just started fast-forwarding through it. So I'm not going to be able to speak with high-quality feedback. What I'd say is this. When it started, I thought the production values were low, but it was an old movie. But I liked the premise. I liked the idea of the radio being jammed and a top world physicist being kidnapped, which is what I thought. And I liked the idea that this was happening around the world, and there was some sort of intergalactic conspiracy, and there was some alien who was blowing stuff up, which I thought of as like, aliens are getting involved in stopping some progression in technology that could be disruptive. And so I was kind of into that. And then I like the fact that we saw a bikini in 1962, which didn't show up in the United States until about 1968, which was to me peculiar. I had to go back and research that, and I think that was unusual to have that Italian progressive Gina Lola Brigida, which you have to be old to know who I'm talking about, sort of shot in the movie, which was intriguing. And then they were driving around in Italy, in Rome. And so, anyway, let me reset. And so, anyway, and then I started kind of waiting for the flying saucers and the laser beams and the photon torpedoes, and then I saw the monkey get knocked out, which I think I've seen that before in documentaries, which is kind of sad to see a monkey getting gassed. which I thought was kind of a weird, politically incorrect thing that wouldn't be okay now. And then nothing really happened. So I may have missed it as I was kind of jumping ahead 5 minutes at a time, but if some great War of the Worlds flying saucer showed up and aliens showed up on 3 legs with laser beams, I missed it. So I just got tired of it. So that's all. By the way, I'm done for the night. That's one and done. But I'm going to listen for everybody else. This is Alpha Indy 5 Quebec Echo. Back to net, Virginia.
Node 4.
Okay, thank you, Bob. And yeah, I'll just put you down to listen to the rest. And yeah, I don't blame you. This movie was kind of bland. It did not live up to its kind of promising title. I was hoping for something a lot more exciting and science fiction-y myself. So, okay, Tom, K5ICX, what are your opinions of Planets Against Us in V5F?
Good evening. The time is 11 p.m.
Well, hi, Virginia, everybody on the net. Well, golly, first off, I was starting to fall asleep during this film. There were a lot of ads in it that they inserted on Pluto TV. They love their ads, so it slowed down an already slowly paced movie. I thought originally when it started out it was kind of interesting. I liked the visuals in it were fine, and I guess kind of Fellini-esque, as is mentioned in the description tonight, and I was okay with that. I thought kind of they're settling in at a slow pace, but it just took so long to go anywhere or do anything, and I was trying to figure out what was going on, and then I realized there were multiple variations, doppelgangers, I guess, and that was fine, but then, it just kind of just rolled to a kind of a very slow, I'm falling asleep again. So I started losing track of what was going on. I can just imagine people in the movie theater trying to sit through this thing. I mean, it's only, 83 minutes long, but my gosh, nothing's happening through most of it. And the few times it is something that's happening, it's cut out way in between. The good news is that everybody seems to have had a membership in this mystery club that they go to all the time, and that's where all the action is. The women in the bikinis, the guys watching the women in the bikinis. Nobody working except the guy at the bar. Everybody else just stays at the club. What's her name was quite the driver. She was very reckless, but we've seen that before. There was something, doggone it, I didn't write it down. There was somebody cued in a comment, and I was going to write something down. I got distracted. I'm talking to a couple of guys that are over on the YouTube channel over in Chile, and I must have missed it. But at any rate, hi guys, I'm saying hi to the folks over there. I know what I was going to say. One of the things that was interesting is that the military, I don't know where they run their operations, but it looks like it might be in a convent or something. I was surprised to see this giant crucifix on the wall next to all the radar equipment and all of that, and it looked like maybe they were in a studio, like a radio studio or music studio or something like that, and they did all these over shots. I know this is a technical part, but it just was really weird, and I guess it helped to, every time you needed to talk to somebody from the other room, they have to bring them in and give them a piece of paper with information on it. Then the guy would go out of the room, and then they would say, confirm, I will make sure that my guys follow, and all of that is very, why? Why are we doing all of this? It doesn't add anything to the story. In fact, it slows it down. And then I'm with, who is it? Was it Bill? Or one of the Bills mentioned the camera. I love that camera. Again, maybe that's more technical, but the camera is there, and it's plugged into the cigarette lighter or something, and it's sent directly back to the police headquarters of the Secret Service or whatever they are. And there's shots with the car moving, and it's with the two of them in the front seat, or, well, it's a station, it's a sports car. So, and would the guy climb onto the hood of the car so he could get that shot? I thought that was kind of interesting. Oh, I didn't understand the plot. I guess maybe they were going to take over the world, but then I had to go to bed because I had to get up early. So I didn't see the very ending. I have read the final synopses here, and I guess that's what you do when you paint yourself into a corner with a boring movie. But what can you do? And it was when in Rome, watch a boring science fiction version of a Fellini film. Back to you, Virginia, KE5ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I think it's humorous that when we're watching any Italian movie, especially when it's black and white, the only thing we can think of is Fellini. That's kind of funny. Let's see. And then if it's not Fellini, it seems like Fellini or what's his face who did Italian neorealism. There's so many Italian movies that seem like it's just sort of people walking around like not doing anything in particular. That's about the pace that this movie felt like. Feels like watching a really boring sci-fi version of Bicycle Thief or something. Anyway, I'll have other comments after a while. Okay, it's either Fellini or that dude who did all the spaghetti westerns, and this definitely wasn't a spaghetti western. Okay, next, Brenda, WB5OZL. What do you think of the plot of Planets Against Us?
This is WB5OZL. Well, it was really confusing in the beginning and a little hard to follow. Even if they did explain it somewhat, I still didn't understand the motivation of the aliens, or whatever they were. I mean, we all only saw the robots. I don't know who the aliens were. The story was just muddled. Just didn't really, it was not a very strong plot, I'll say that. And, take over, and or why we couldn't really do something about it. And so I didn't think much of the plot. I just can't recall having ever seen any other Italian movie. I think this is probably indicative of the way they go. And just, really bad ones. And which is too bad. But, oh gosh. I just don't know what much to say about this. It's just that it was muddied. And in the end, the guy takes off with those kids in the car, and suddenly they're just not there. He lets them out. Just, I guess, turns them out into the wilderness. What kind of a thing is that? I think it's another one of those things where somebody has a kernel of an idea and then they start trying to build around it, and pretty soon they've created a real monster. Alright, back to net, WB5OZL.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. Okay, before I do my turn, I want to see if there's anyone else who would like to join us for Afterglow. We're at the end of the first round, so if you'd like to get in here on the first round of Planets Against Us, please come now with your call sign, your name, and whether or not you saw the movie.
Kilo Bravo 9, Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. I did see this movie.
We have KB9SOK. Sean, let us know what you thought of this, the plot of this movie in V5F.
Yeah, this KB9SOK. Well, I feel along the same thing along as the rest of you. Probably one of the worst parts is just the pacing of this movie. It was pretty slow. Pretty much it was watching him slowly find his way to meet the scientist. This movie was a little bit convoluted with its plot. It wasn't, kind of clear at the beginning. Obviously we see the robot race try to stop us from advancing into space. Then we find out later about how his plan was destroyed with, weapons, and essentially it seemed like maybe the aliens or the robots were trying to help us by slowing us down, so we didn't destroy ourselves, but yet this robot had no problem killing people that tried to slow him down, but yet, we had the typical, it's weird, we see this trope in seems like every science fiction movie that has a robot, they magically fall in love with her, one of the women on Earth, and we had that trope, which is just kind of funny, but then we had this thing with the scientists making the gas. We never really did find out what the intentions were with this gas by the scientist, or what the robot was going to do with it, because he acted like he was wanting, maybe initially they were trying to help us, but then if they're going to use the gas against us, then that's really obviously not helping us. So it was just kind of a strange plot in that effect. Yeah, I agree with a few that I think at the beginning, the description of the movie made me sound like it was going to have some promise, but it was just so slow-paced and not really flushed out that it just was just boring, to be honest. Yeah, it's not, we've seen way worse that we've watched over the years, but this thing was just pretty boring and just strange. At the end of the day, really, what was the final goal? I don't know if this was just another movie that was written to warn us once again about destroying ourselves. We've seen that a million times, but all in all, this was just kind of just a boring movie. So anyway, not much else to add than whatever else says. So yeah, back to that. KB9SOK.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Well, I've got my work cut out for me because I had the same troubles with this that most everybody else did. The title really made it seem like it was going to be pretty good, and the opening was at least sort of interesting. I guess the problem I had, I thought they had at least some kind of a beginning, but I guess the problem I had was that it took a while to figure out, I guess there were a bunch of this robot guy, I don't know. The whole thing was like they wanted to do something science fiction-y, but they also just had good-looking actresses and location, and they were trying to do something with aliens, but they really didn't have much of a way to do convincing aliens, so they have this kind of confusing plot about a guy who's a cyborg, which, there have been robots and things, and humanoid robots, so I guess the thing that they were trying to do with him, with Bronco, was have him be almost kind of sympathetic, like he didn't seem real scary, and he wore gloves to protect him from, like, killing everybody he touched, I guess. And, that's been in movies since then, those kinds of plots, that kind of idea. And I think, they had the different women. They had the more freewheeling, artsy lady who sort of threw herself at him, and she ended up getting killed. And then they had the other lady who was, I guess he was more interested in, and she was a little more hard to get, and she really liked him. And I think they were trying to do something there with kind of a sympathy towards him arc kind of a thing. I think the kids were in it for comic relief. I think that was supposed to be the point of the kids being in it, but there was no real, like, need in the plot for them to be there. And I think they just had a lot of elements of a plot that they didn't really quite link together in a way that was, very well paced, or there was no emotional investment in any of these people. It's like, oh, pretty ladies with big hair and short dresses, and we're in Italy, we're partying, good-looking dude. They decided to have the alien be sort of a good-looking guy. We've had that in other things like, Superman and Starman, and so it's it's not something unusual, I guess, to have an alien that was kind of sympathetic because he was handsome and in some way sort of innocent, but he's still kind of, scary and dangerous. And I guess he was part of a plot, and I'm not sure. That's the thing. There was no clear reason, like other people have said, why are these aliens even here? What do they have a goal except to kill everybody? Or I don't know. And I don't know. And then he ends up disintegrating at the end, and that was weird. And yeah, I don't have a lot of answers. I was mostly bored and confused. I feel like there should have been other noteworthy things. Oh, someone said, he had a camera kind of thing in the car. He also had a car phone, which was, I guess, starting to be a thing in the 60s. There was a car phone in one of the cars. The guy who got killed, who had the kids in the car, he had a car phone in his car. I thought that was kind of interesting. And honestly, I just wasn't really that interested, so I couldn't even tell you specifically, what I thought about the plot. It was just kind of boring. I should be a better net control and be more inspirational, but I'm not. NV5. What do you think about acting and characters in this movie?
This is N5BB. Thank you, Virginia. Ha! Ha ha! Ha ha ha! That's what I think about acting and characterization. A joke. They were kind of believable and went through their what they were supposed to do, but it wasn't very interesting. The two women actresses, Marina, and the one that played Marina, and Audrey. They did the required things, and they I think were believable characters. But as I think Tom mentioned, the police were a little bit of a joke, and they seem to be bumbling a little bit when they're out in their little police cars, unmarked police cars, going around and doing their surveillance. For somebody from some alien that's threatening the whole world, they didn't exactly put a lot of detectives on the project they were trailing. You know, they were looking for him and trailing him with one vehicle many times. I just didn't understand that at all. I think it was the budget of the movie that prevented more. You'd have thought they would have, surrounded where they thought he was in all places. And even though they knew that he might threaten that scientist, somehow they weren't watching the place. And the robot was able to walk right in, talk him right through the front desk, get right up to his area, and the scientist was talking to him about his nasty gas project. I mean, no security at all. They did at least get him into the room where they were able to x-ray him, but in general, something didn't seem that secure there. And the police didn't seem to understand what was going on. Somehow I got the idea that when he was being x-rayed and all that stuff, the police were not circling the building, or surrounding the building and preventing him from leaving. Because he'd get out of there with nobody stopping him. But anyway, I'm characterizing the police as bumbling idiots. That's what I'm doing here. It's a plot point, though. The robot himself was rather blah. He had this kind of amazing eyes, which, of course, on a black and white film was kind of hard to show, but evidently everybody always remarked on his amazing eyes, and but he was a rather stiff character. But he's a robot. He's supposed to be kind of a stiff character, maybe. I wish they had somehow shown him doing things or not doing things that more clearly showed he was a robot. They didn't do very many of those things, which meant all the humans didn't realize he was a robot.
4, 8, 9.
So I don't know, maybe they were just good at building. I don't know. A little strange there. I don't remember him eating or drinking anything, but he might have if I watched it again. I wasn't thinking about it the first time I went through it. Let's see here. N5BB for ID. What else for characterization? I agree. The kids were just there for comic relief, and they were quite stupid. They should have run away. And they seemed to kind of just hang around for no reason and let this strange guy, drive them around. If I were them, I would have gotten out of there quick. And why was the policeman? Why was he taking them around? Was it camouflage so that the robot would not realize that he was a policeman? It wasn't clear for me why he had those two kids with him. Let's see, what else? I guess that's about it. Most of the characters weren't all that believable. Although I guess I believe the women, although I didn't understand what did they really do for money or jobs? They seemed to be kind of hanging around at the bar and looking for boyfriends, but that sounded to be about all that they were doing in life. If they had careers, I kind of missed what they were. Guess that's it for characterization. N5BB.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Well, that one chick was an artist, and, they pretty much were doing what I think good-looking gals in the 60s did, I guess. If they weren't married, they just hung around at parties. I guess they were affluent in some way, and they were just there, being awesome, being cool. I guess that's what people did in the 60s. I don't know. I wasn't around. Okay, next we have Bill, W5BLT. Can you tell us anything, give us some insight on these characters and acting in V5F?
No, I can't give you any insight on the characters. Sorry. I just appreciate everybody else on here because I was so lost on this movie. I didn't care about the characters. Yeah, I was kind of lost, probably again because of the blindness thing. I didn't understand how the one lady got injured. It took me a minute or two to gather that it was from, I guess, the alien. I was just lost, and so I didn't care. I'm typically, if something happens to a woman in a movie, I'm not happy about it. But I had no empathy on these characters. I didn't care at the end that the alien guy disintegrated, or was it the robot? I don't know. But it just didn't affect me one way or the other. I suppose the one thing that really, I suppose, was bad was, the monkey. I wanted a monkey growing up. I watched BJ and the Bear, and I remember going to the mall, this is back in the early 70s when I was like a little kid, 3 or 4, and they had a monkey that came up, and you would give it a coin, and it would go back to the man that had it and drop it in a hat, and then come back over to you for another coin, and let me pet it, and I thought that was just so cool. So, typically I like monkeys, but this movie, I just had no caring for these characters at all. I was just glad when the movie was done. Pluto had so many ads, I found it on YouTube, and I sped it up and got done. So, yeah, I failed on this one. W5BLT, back to you, Virginia.
Node 4, 8, 9.
Okay, well, the question is, did we fail? Because nobody really has much interesting to say about it, because probably just I don't think it was that interesting. Okay, we're going to let Bob just listen in, and we're going to go to Tom, KE5ICX. Give us acting and characterization.
Okay, I'm going to be honest. My favorite character and the best acting was done by the monkey. The monkey I cared about. No one else I cared about. Mainly because I had no idea what they were doing, or why they were doing it, or who was doing what to whom, and when. And I was curious, as was mentioned earlier, what all the people at the party were doing all the time. Did they ever work? And if they do work, where do they work? Obviously not at the Project Strygas, or whatever the heck the place was they were at, the lemon-scented paralyzing gas place. By the way, it was a nice office building, I guess. Well, that's it. I don't know anything about these people. I kept falling asleep. They were so boring. How can Italian people be that boring? They're supposed to be exciting and fun and much merriment and thousands of years of history. And the only thing that was interesting, I guess, was they drove around the Coliseum a couple of times on the way to work or home or to the club. I don't think anybody actually went home. I think they just went to the club. So there you have it. I don't have anything else to add because I didn't care about any of the characters and I don't remember anything about them. But I missed the monkey. The monkey was special. KE5ICX.
Okay, thanks, Tom. They did go to that artist lady's home. That's where she got encountered the alien and didn't live through it. I guess that was her home. There were paintings everywhere. Yeah, the monkey. He was kind of convincing. So, yeah, I'll have my also boring, bland take on this in a couple minutes. After we talk to a couple more people, Brenda, I know you'll have some really insightful things to say about the characters and acting in this movie, in B5F.
WB5OZL. Yeah, they were horrible. I didn't identify with anybody. The women were tramps. This woman, she's engaged, but she's coming out of this robot. The robot was really creepy. I'd like to know what he looks like in other roles, because he was a creepy guy in this one. And, of course, you never really knew what he was about or what he was doing or, you know, what he was there for. Bunch of plastic people in this. I think it was it's an unusual disconnect. I just didn't care about these people. They never, the script, the movie, the director, nobody was ever able to establish a character that we cared about. So, it came to a point in the movie, as it does in some movies, when I just wish they'd all die in the movie. You know, let's just get it over with. Back to net, WB5OZL.
Well, thank you, Brenda. This movie has brought out the great cynicism in everyone. So, yeah, man. All right. Sean, KB9SOK, what do you have to say about characters and acting in this movie?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. There were characters? There was acting? Oh, man. Well, I can't really blame the actors a whole lot, because unfortunately there wasn't a whole lot of material for them to work with. Yeah, we learned absolutely nothing about these people for the most part, other than they like to party. To answer one of first Bill's question on the one lady, not the artist, the other one, she was, they said she was very wealthy from her family, so she didn't need to work. And of course she was engaged as a scientist. So yeah, she really just had free time on her hands, which is I guess why she was okay with cheating with a robot. So yeah, these characters were pretty dull. Not a lot. We didn't learn much about them. I agree with Tom. The monkey wins the award. Best actor. Probably the most intelligent one out of the group. We did get to see lots and lots of screeching tires, though. Thought that was interesting. Every single car comes to a screeching halt. Apparently, over in Italy, they don't know how to fix brakes. So that was curious. The one question I had, well, among this plot was, I forgot to mention it earlier, was when the cops shot the robot Bronco with whatever that circle thing was, which I guess was a ray gun. Where did we get a ray gun? So that was strange. And then, we never really found out what happened to Bronco 2.0's partner. We know he went up into the flying saucer, but they coming back? What are they doing? Yeah. So, yeah, I don't have much on characterization because we just didn't learn much. I mean, we just had the two ladies that were just kind of just enjoying life, partying. We had the scientist that was your typical, stereotypical scientist buried in his work. Didn't really care about his personal life, so not much there. Yeah, I agree the kids are just there for some relief, I guess. Yeah, why would a cop bring his kids to work when he knows that he's changing dangerous criminal ever, an alien that could destroy us all. So yeah, why would you bring your kids? That makes no sense. This robot was so powerful, did they really think their little suits would protect them? But anyway, lots of problems with this movie, but anyway, I had not a lot to add, so I'll send it back to you, Virginia. Thanks for doing that. This is KB9SOK.
Okay, Thanks, Sean. I think we all have come to about the same conclusion. There was just it almost felt like just random scenes. You know, they're like, oh, we have some good-looking girls, we have some cute kids, we have a handsome guy. He can be the alien robot cyborg reanimation of a scientist who's been kidnapped. We have, you know, some guys who, after the opening part, and they have like the guys all in the uniforms in the kind of war room place. You know, I made a joke. Okay, here's my very lame tangent to 2001. It's not very good this time. That opening part where they're all in that kind of conference room, I was joking about how since this movie's black and white, it's got all these people that are in a conference, and it started with like planes and stuff. I was joking that it was because you know this movie started with planes. I was joking that Stanley Kubrick ripped Dr. Strangelove off from this movie. So, hey, he saw a lot of movies back then. You know, he was always looking for ideas. So maybe he saw this and was like, hey, a black and white movie. Let's do that. Okay, let's have planes. Okay, let's have guys in a conference room. So anyway, that was my joke. Because there was, you know, there was a little ensemble of guys at the beginning, and it seemed like it could have been kind of interesting. And you know, and then, you know, you've got the chicks with the cool hairdos and the short dresses and fashion and cute little European cars zipping around and, you know, a handsome sort of leading bad guy. I think on his character there was some attempt made at making him kind of sympathetic and dualistic, and but there was just no arc for him, and there was no real sense of urgency or conflict. You know, and the kids didn't really have there wasn't a suspenseful, they weren't used anywhere in the plot for any kind of leverage in the plot, so that was like, well, what's the point of this? And, you know, you never got scared or worried or concerned that these people were actually going to take over the world, and it just seemed like they had some good-looking actors, and they had a few special effects, and they figured out a loose way to tie it all together, have a few chase scenes in cars, and, you know, like I said, kids, and wasn't there a dog in there somewhere? There's probably cute animals, too, I don't know. I might have fallen asleep during that part. And they had, you know, the guy was kind of mysterious and handsome, and he had those piercing eyes, so they made his eyes glow, which no one's mentioned up to now. That maybe that's round 3 stuff, but, you know, he could speak through his, you know, through your mind, you know, he could psychically tell the women things, you know, and it seemed like he was sort of trying to warn them and, you know, save them from being in a relationship with him, and, you know, even though, I don't know, I guess he was, even though he's a robot, I guess he kind of had feelings like a person, and was maybe really attracted to them, and but seemed a little bit out of sorts or taken aback as to what to do in a relationship. And yeah, there seemed to be any goals. No one seemed to have. There was no one for us to really root for, because nobody really had a real. You know, the police were trying to figure out where the missing guy was, why he was missing. I don't know why they were making poison gas. It seemed like that would have been the goal, to use that gas on the invading aliens, and then suddenly they have some kind of a ray gun thing to take them out with. But hey, if they're secret government guys working on poison gas, that maybe they're working on death rays too. So maybe they have, you know, something like that they could try out on him. I guess they did. Eventually he sort of melted and, you know, disintegrated, and because of that, so I guess. Anyway, all right, not much on characters, not much we cared about, not a lot of character arcs. I'm trying to think if there was anything other noteworthy thing I could say about characters. Cops, tropey stuff, you know, bumbling cops messing things up. so that the plot could move forward. Handsome guy, pretty girls, cute kids, old scientist, older scientist guy, monkeys. This movie had everything. Okay, it was a real extravaganza. Well, we have a little time, so I think there's some probably notable round 3 things to say, so I'm going to give everybody a go on round 3 and just...
A lot lost in that process. It was okay, I guess. There were no amazing shots, but it was okay.
Node 8902. Time out.
I need to comment about the dubbing. The dubbing from, I guess, Italian into English in some areas was okay. In other words, the characters are talking among themselves, and it seemed like reasonable dialogue. In other places, it was completely off. As I mentioned earlier, there's a place where the woman was singing in her car or something, and just a few words came out. There was no singing. And there were a few other places where a character was, saying a couple of sentences and only a few words were translated in English. So it was a little goofy in some places on the... What else do I want to say? Special effects. Involving the dubbing and the audio. Somebody was commenting about all the cars screeching to a halt. I'm sure that was just done during the dubbing process. I'm sure what they did is they just dubbed in some screeching tires so it made it look real. And sometimes when the cars were taking off, you could see that wasn't the actual car's motor sound. They just dubbed some stuff in there. But I noticed that on the sports cars, every time they came to a start, every single time. That was just for effect, I think. They wanted you to realize that they wanted to fool you into thinking that it was real sound rather than dubbed. And to me, it had the opposite effect. I thought that I don't think anybody's commented about the flying saucer spacecraft. They didn't show any good pictures of it flying around, really. They showed it kind of sitting there. It landed, and I thought it looked okay, actually, for something of that time. So I thought that was it was a basic flying saucer spacecraft. Nothing fancy, nothing special, just the basic thing. And it was okay as the basic thing. But why did all the science fiction movies had to have flying saucers? Oh, that was the trope at the time. What else can I think of? It was too long. They could have put some more interesting things in it. We could have learned more about what the aliens really wanted to do with the Earth. And at the end, we're kind of left holding the bag. What happened? Did the aliens leave Earth? Are they coming back tomorrow? Are all these robots going to go and walk up to important figures and kill them all with the radioactive hands tomorrow morning? We don't know. So it's a little bit unsatisfying there at the end. I don't know if they did that so they could maybe do a follow-up movie, or just because they wanted to put something dangerous in it. Warning, these people could be coming in your neighborhood tomorrow, and look, they look kind of like humans, but they're robots. Tell your daughters, don't go pick up that robotic-looking guy, good-looking guy in the bar and take him home. It's dangerous. don't drive him around your sports car, or he'll take off his glove and turn you into ash. Did you notice that one of the different humans he killed, I think there were 3 different things that happened. The one girl just touched her lips to his. She says, "Oh, you're cold." And she was in the hospital but didn't immediately die. She may have lost some of her memory. And then the girl, I guess, what was left was it her? What was left was a skeleton. And then I think, was it the policeman, where the whole body was nearly vaporized. There was nothing left hardly. And the same thing happened to the robot. There was very little left. So it's kind of crazy when they get rid of... I guess they just changed their minds as they were doing their special effects. And I guess it was okay for 1962 black and white movie, the level of special effects there that they did. At least they didn't have big insects that were, towering over us. Okay, that's it. It's getting late. N5BB, clear.
Okay, next, Bill, W5BLT. Any thoughts for round 3 from you in V5?
Thank you once again for doing this movie. The plot is against us. I rather... If anything, it filled in a lot of gaps. I didn't realize that there were different women that got affected by this handsome robot guy. I thought it was just one, so I was thoroughly lost. Anyway, so the plot is against us. The one thing I will say, and now I'm disappointed learning the sports car sounds were dubbed in, because I like the sports car sounds. I thought they sounded cool, but now realizing this had nothing to do with the movie. But the other thing I was going to say is the one on YouTube I found had that old kind of hiss from the movies of that era, in like a 30s and 40s kind of hiss, in some of the 60s movies. So Pluto must have done something to clean that up. So maybe the ads were worth it, because Pluto definitely had a little bit clearer audio and didn't have that sort of hiss that some of the older movies had. So I wonder if they used some audio stuff to remove that. That's all I got. I don't remember any music to this thing either. If it did, maybe the party had music. I don't know. I can't remember. I guess that shows you how memorable music was. Thanks again, Virginia. Nicely done. W5BLT.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Next, we're on to Tom, K5ICX, round 3. What have you got, observation-wise?
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is, Virginia, you've done an excellent job of trying to keep this turkey alive. You've done really well. And being able to, fill in gaps and give us something to think about and things to discuss and all of that, somehow or another you've made it work. And at any rate, I think Bill mentioned that there was the dubbing in, and I was just I was tiddling around with the movie. I have yet to watch it all the way through. It's I was telling Brenda about it the other day. It's called The Seventh Seal with Ingrid Bergman in it, and it's in Swedish, but there is a dub in English. And one of the first things I noticed in the dub on English is that the audio is very different. The background sound is very different. It's obvious that it's dubbed in a studio, as opposed to being mixed in with the original sound. In other words, you remove or you use the source sounds that you got, background noise, all of that. You just cut that completely out and you do it radio lab type stuff. You go in and add your sounds, like in this case, we're talking about the sports car. Probably the original film had the original sound of the sports car, and they just dubbed it in because it's a hell of a lot easier to just dub in all that stuff and have your actors and do it probably in real time in order to get that the continuity and to do it as cheaply as possible. So I think that probably has something to do with it, certainly. I'm always fascinated by the fact that when they dub in people's voices, that the actors, you got this skinny younger person with this dubbed in English low voice, baritone voice for the guy. It didn't make any sense because I don't think that kind of voice would come out of that person, the cyborg. So they never do that to type. And of course, I don't know. That makes, I guess, endearing and entertaining at the same time, that it could be so different and so off mark to do that it just kind of takes you out of the movie, which I guess is part of it as well. Not that you could be in the movie in this thing, because none of that made any sense to me anyway. I still don't know what the hell happened in this film. At any rate, interesting. I like the long establishing shots that went on forever, and you kind of got a feel for 1962 Rome, Italy a little bit. That was kind of fun, I suppose. Costuming and all that was fun. We were making fun of it during the movie, but in actuality, it was kind of nice stuff. I mean, it's Italian, right? They should have Italian sensibilities, and they do. So everything about it, was it Alfa Romero, I guess? No, it was I think it was an Alfa Romero. Car was very nice. That was fun to look at. And the police car, pursuit car, was that dopey little thing that looked like something you would have in Rome that they would drive, their mini sedan. The thing is about the size of a shoebox. So that was kind of fun as well. And then all of the location shooting was interesting, I thought. And looked good, too. I have to admit, it looked good. So maybe that's where the Fellini part comes in. I mentioned Fellini not because it was, that's what we think of with Italian films, even though it is. It mentions it somewhere in one of the descriptions that it's a Fellini-esque type film. So there you have it. I guess that's it. I don't have much to add. Like I said, I was fading in and out of consciousness, much like the director was of this film when I was watching it, and he was directing, or she, I don't know. I think it was a he. So there you have it. I don't have much more to add, but kudos to you to keeping this thing going and pushing that Italian car uphill. Back to you, KE5I6.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Lots of interesting thoughts there. I'll try to remember some of them when it's my turn. Makes me think of my parents. Before I was born, they had a little Italian car, one of those little kind of cars. I don't know if it was Italian, but it was one of those little sporty cars, and they had to park it on a hill because the starter was broken, so they had to park it so they could get it rolling and pop it into gears to get it to start. Brenda, WB5OZL, any round 3 thoughts from you?
This is WB5OZL. I also had a little Italian 2-seater Fiat. Teeny thing. Red, convertible. It was so much fun to drive. Stick shift. I drove a stick shift for 5 years. And just had a ball. No air conditioning, though. I'll have to say that. But it was fun watching that little Alfa Romeo in this show. You just don't see that much these days anymore. The car was probably the best thing about this show. Certainly not that cheesy flying saucer. That's one of the worst special effects I've ever seen. And it was some icky stuff when the robot started. I don't know. He was transforming. I don't know what he was doing, but he was really gross looking, and I didn't like it. He was creepy from the get-go, and why any woman would go after him was beyond me, because he certainly didn't have any personality, and he was creepy looking, so I didn't get that part. All right, it's late, and well, I mean, I could bash this movie forever, but why? Let's, I think it's time to move on. WB50ZL, clear.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Good night to you. And since you wanted to leave some more bashing to someone else, let's see what Sean has to say.
Yeah, this is KB9S, okay. Yeah, there really actually wasn't a lot for special effects. You know, we had the flying saucer everybody's mentioned, not the greatest. You can see the wires on it in a few scenes. Well, not really see the wires, big deal by the way it was moving. You know, as far as the dubbing goes, when I was looking for an alternative source to watch this movie, because, you know, Pluto's commercials are just, you know, a killer, worse than the robot, I was reading that there was various versions of the dub. Somewhere they didn't fully dub it completely. The version I finally ended up watching was the one on Prime, and the video clearly had been cleaned up, converted to HD, and the dubbing was actually pretty good there. I didn't feel like any speech was missing, so it sounds like there's various versions of the dubbing. Once again, didn't help it any. It'd probably been better had less words. But yeah, really, other than you know, we had the scene of the robots being made. I guess that was okay, pretty generic looking. Not, you know, obviously they didn't apparently spend much on the budget on that part of it. And yeah, the flying saucer, their coned ray gun that it didn't look like a ray gun. And then, you know, they love showing scenes of the camera with the giant antenna while they filmed them drive around, and perfect close-up quality, as Tom mentioned earlier. So yeah, I guess that's their special effects in this one. Yeah, music was pretty well non-existent. So yeah, well, once again, always enjoyed the conversation on here. Looking forward to the next one. So back to that. This is KB9S, okay.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Well, I have a few things. The music was dark, moody, not too bad. 60s kind of science fiction-y, kind of scary, creepy music. It wasn't bad music, but it wasn't very memorable. It was pretty normal for that era, I guess. Yeah, the dry soundtrack with all the Foleyed-in sounds, I think that was typical. Nowadays, they would keep everything in multi-tracks and be more careful to look ahead into the future of, hey, we're going to need to dub this into another language, so let's keep the soundtrack separate, you know, and just drop different voices in. And sometimes that's harder to do than others, but nowadays I think they find that pretty easy to do. But back then they had to basically recreate the whole audio track, so it did kind of have a dry feel to it, and just the Italian style of filming kind of added to that. It is interesting to me that there is a certain sensibility that Italian films have, even kind of a low-budget science fiction thing. I guess the whole budget did go to a few special effects. The making of the robot special effect I thought was pretty good. The animation of it getting disintegrated was kind of gross, but also just cheesy stop motion. It wasn't really, you know, some of the effects were just burning in of brightly lit areas in the frame and super basic, but I think they just, you know, they wanted to do a sci-fi movie, but they didn't have much of a budget, and I guess they blew it all on that fabulous flying saucer, which I honestly, yes, it looked cheesy, but honestly, I thought it looked kind of unique. It was sort of double-decker, and I had never seen a flying saucer that looked quite like that one. It actually kind of caught my eye, despite its cheesiness. I was kind of impressed by it. So, let's see some of my other observations. And Elvis has left the building. I can tell by the squelch tail there. Okay, so I'll be quicker here. Yeah, the overall feel of the shots and the cinematography, it felt to me like a student film. You get everything from pretty good exposure and composition to really bad exposure and really, jarring editing and the bad locations, like, just the generic buildings and all that. It's probably just a, lack of budget, lack of experience by the director, lack of, good crew to make sure continuity was good. Just...
Good morning, Node. The time is 12 a.m. 2. Time out.
So, yeah, I don't have a whole lot else to add after all of that. I think we pretty much covered this one, and it's after midnight. So, Tom, if you're still awake, please tell us what next week's movie's going to be, won't you?
Well, I'll be happy to, Virginia. Next week's movie is the 1979 holiday classic, The Shape of Things to Come, the H.G. Wells holiday robot Jack Palance edition. You'll love it, I think. KE5ICX.
Okay, thanks, Tom. I'm guessing that's not to be confused with the movie Simply Things to Come. I think that's another different movie. Anyway, okay, I'll be looking forward to that one. That should be a wonderful way to get us from Christmas to New Year's. All right. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for participating in Afterglow. We did all 3 rounds with everybody. There wasn't enough movie to talk about to not be able to do that this time. So I guess it's good and bad. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for hanging in there. And everybody have a very Merry Christmas and a good rest of your weekend. And we'll see you next week right here, same bat time, same bat channel. This is Virginia in V5F, your net control, returning this repeater to normal amateur radio use, and as Tom likes to say, bye-bye and bye bonds in V5F.
Thank you very much, Virginia. You did a fantastic job. It was enjoyable listening to the net run by you. So thank you very, very much for an enjoyable experience, even though the movie was so-so. Tom, we've got to get better movies. We need to expand the search. We're tired of crying and crying and crying about all the horrible things we see in these. Certainly there must be a few good movies. Although you suddenly realize when you start watching a lot of movies how many bad movies have been made over the last 50 years. Well, the last 100 years. Anyway, Merry Christmas. See you next week. N5BB clear.